It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Very good evening, ZiFM Sport on a Friday, Fire Friday here. The team is here. Chris, Mike, Sean, our producer, Alois is here, and my name is Barry. Well, on the home front, the Zimbabwe Under-17 national football team began their COSAFA Championships campaign on a decent note after sharing spoils with Angola in the tournament opener. In international sports news, hosts and defending champion New Zealand have been drawn with fierce rival Australia in Pool A at next year's Women's Rugby World Cup.
We'll take you around the world in 60, starting off in London, where Rafael Nadal overcame defending champion Stefanos Tsitsipas to join Dominic Thiem in the semi-finals of the ATP Finals and keep alive his hopes of winning the season-ending tournament for the first time. In news from Dubai, the ICC has announced that teams will be ranked based on the percentage of points earned from completed matches to determine the finalists of the inaugural World Test Championship next year. And in California, Golden State Warriors star Klay Thompson has a torn right Achilles and will miss the 2020-2021 season.
It's Fire Friday today, so don't miss out on our party track during the play of the day. And then the second half of the show is the beautiful game, which kicks off in the Premier League, where old rivals Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola renew hostilities when Tottenham Hotspur welcome Manchester City to North London tomorrow night. In La Liga, one of the standout fixtures on the calendar will take place at the Wanda Metropolitano this weekend as Atletico Madrid welcome Barcelona for what should be a fascinating affair. In Italy, Napoli could face AC Milan without four starters this weekend as Gennaro Gattuso faces his former side. And there's also plenty of action in the Bundesliga, Ligue 1 and the DStv Premiership.
Our power play today is from Miley Cyrus, is featuring Dua Lipa. It's called Prisoner.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Why don't you catch up with us in cyberspace? That is, of course, social media. And you can catch us on all the platforms at ZiFM Sport. And, of course, in our individual capacities, it's at Gazaman14 for Alois, at Chris Midzi, at Mike Madoda, at Sean Tafirenyika, and at Barry Manandi. Let's get into it on the home front. We're talking under-17, the Zimbabwe under-17 national football team, who are performing or taking part at the COSAFA Championships, and they got their campaign off to a decent start after sharing the spoils with Angola in the tournament opener. The two sides clashed at Galvindale Stadium in the Nelson Mandela Bay, South Africa yesterday. The Young Warriors were given a penalty after an Angolan defender handled in the box after just 4 minutes of play. Friendly Academy midfielder Alpha Chiwashira took the spot kick and duly converted. The Angolans restored parity deep into added time in the first period through a penalty which was converted by their skipper Antonio Lopez. Let's hear the post-match thoughts of Tafadzo Mashiri, the Young Warriors coach, and he speaks about the game strategy and the match plan and how well his players implemented it.
It's a point gained. Our strategy, our game plan was to get an early goal, and we got that through the penalty. We converted that early chance, and it worked in favor of us, though the Angolans were coming at us, especially through their wings, and they had more men in midfield, so they were overpowering us in the midfield and through the wings. So in the second half, we tried to rectify that by bringing more men in the midfield, employing a 4-5-1 system, and it worked for us. And no more spaces for them to play, and we forced each time them to play in front of us, and it really helped. So it's a point gained, but however, we could have got a second goal, but we missed a glorious chance. Teams are built from good defense, and for them to be able to defend resolutely, it's a positive. But however, a lot of things needs to be clarified or rectified in the midfield, where we gave them too much space. We were very ineffective. We couldn't utilize the chances that we got, especially through the set plays, despite converting a penalty. But we got free kicks in precarious positions, but we couldn't put them away.
Alois Tafazo Mashiri, they're talking about the fact that they wanted an early goal, and you got to think to yourself, that would have been the perfect way to start. Seems like the space that they gave the Angolans was exploited and allowed Angola back into the game.
Yeah, I think it was a good thing that we scored first. Probably we could have gotten on to look for a second goal, the assurance goal, but unfortunately we couldn't. When you look at the situation, this was a team that was hurriedly assembled, and they just went on to go to the tournament. So from that time space, you can actually tell that the coach did a lot, to actually put the team together and do as you were saying, for these youngsters to actually come together and play according to plan, according to what the coach is saying. I think that should be commendable, and for them to actually get a 1-1 draw against much fancied Angola. We have known that Angola, they are very big in junior development and everything, and for them to actually clinch a draw like that, I think is something that we can actually be happy about. Only hope that we could have done better if we had prepared for this tournament much better than we did.
It certainly seems that way, Chris, because you look at even some of the development. Obviously, Angola created more of the opportunities, had more shots on goal, if you look at the statistics alone. But in terms of the opportunities that Zimbabwe got, they actually got chances in front of goal. And that's a sign that had this team been better prepared, perhaps the result could have been a little bit different.
The result probably could have been a little bit different. I think if they'd had better preparations, like he said, this team was able to implement the game plan. Unfortunately, they did allow Angola back in the game. But the fact that they were able to get the early goal that they had planned on getting, they were able, when they made those tweaks that he talked about, they were able to then seal off the game at 1-1. I think that shows that this team has potential. These young warriors can actually get something done. And if you have a cohort like this, if you're able to just with very little preparation get this kind of a result, then it means that obviously going forward, if this team is better prepared, better resourced, and there's more sort of regular contact with these players, then we can definitely look forward then to having a functional under-17 team and to have it actually getting these results, especially in a tournament like this where you'd want them to be getting good results and to kick on.
Great way to start, Mike, especially given that many of these players, just looking down that list, some of them in academies, some of them playing for Premier League sides, but certainly for their development sides. Most of these players, this would have been their first outing in national colours, and then obviously at a tournament, whether major or minor, certainly. So getting a result like this is the perfect start to sort of calm the nerves, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. I think 99% of those players, are academy players, and the only player who's got, should I say, a lick or any contact with the Premier League side is goalkeeper Blessed Sibanda, who plays for FC Platinum. He's in their junior side, but most of these guys are high school students by definition, and this would have been their first tournament of this magnitude. This would have been the first time they would have been playing at this level of competition, and so it was a good outing for them. They didn't have the best of preparations, but they had, I think, a better preparation than we saw our young mighty warriors have, and the young mighty warriors were well and truly put to the sword, because we saw those score lines 7-0, or versus South Africa. I think it was 10-1 versus Tanzania. I'm just glad that the young lads have managed to avert a similar disaster by putting in a good performance against an Angola side who, in truth, dominated the later stages of the game. Angola took the game to Zimbabwe, but I love what the coach said, that good teams are built on a very solid defensive platform. And so these young lads can defend. They kept the Angolans out. And so he's got at least a platform upon which to build from.
He's got a pretty tough assignment next up, Alois, if we're to throw forward, because he's playing host South Africa. We know that South Africa has, and you will know, obviously, having lived there for many, many years, they have a very a robust junior policy, which has league football. So many of the players who are playing in the under-17 team for South Africa will be players who are used to competition. Our players this year, by the horrific nature in which we've approached 2020, and then secondly, by the dearth of junior structures in our football generally, won't have as much experience under their belts as the South Africans. It's going to be a tough one, this one.
Yeah, Barry. I think it's something that I'm afraid I have to admit. That South Africa have got a very robust junior policy, like you have said. I've watched them. They actually sometimes televise, and these boys sometimes they go out of the country. Sometimes they actually have foreign-based players at under 17 level. So we are facing a team that is most likely or obviously polished. And I'm afraid. I'm Zimbabwean, I'm patriotic and all that, but this is one game. When you look at that group, this is one game we can afford to lose. We can say we can draw against Angola, guys. And then we could lose against South Africa. Then we managed to beat Eswatini. I think that's the approach that we must just avoid a big scoreline. But I don't see us beating South Africa, honestly speaking, because I've watched the South African under-17s playing. They are a solid team. They are a very good side. With our preparations, I'm not sure.
And I think, Barry, the point that you brought up, that they've got leagues in South Africa, they've got competitions for the youngsters, that they play football throughout the year. It's not just a second-term sport like here in Zimbabwe, because remember I talked about these guys who are coming from Pamushana High School, like Inácio Perezo. These are guys that are playing their football predominantly in the second term. In the first term, it's athletics, cross country. Third term, they're concentrating on exams. South Africa have got players who have actually started the professional journey whilst they're still in their teens, and so it's going to be a higher level of competition. And like Alois said, I think we should play for pride. Make sure that we are not humiliated, make sure that we're not battered, make sure that we compete.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? Getting a competitive side that can stand its own ground, because the strategy possibly, Chris, is for us to get a positive result out of the South Africa game, but target the game against Eswatini and then see what happens between South Africa and Angola. It's possibly the best foot forward, but even then, even in a losing cause, these boys won't want their confidence dented by it being a massacre against South Africa.
Definitely, and we saw what kind of impact a massacre will have on a team, especially in a tournament like this with the young mighty Warriors. So definitely what they'd want to do is obviously make sure that they manage these games to reduce the number of opportunities that they're going to be giving to South Africa. And also when they then go up against Eswatini, that's a side that they can say, okay, this is a side that realistically we might be able to get a win against. So I think it's about really managing these games and ensuring that there's no dent in terms of pride, in terms of the mental fortitude of the young Warriors, so that they're able to compete in this tournament. But going forward, I think a little bit more needs to be done in terms of, like Mike said, getting that action for these for the young Warriors, because it's about them being used to a competition setup. And at the moment, what they're going to be doing is just managing the fact that they aren't.
Certainly, and let's give you those group standings. And Group A, South Africa, of course, are tops after those 3 points that they got against Eswatini. And then Angola is in second with that 1 point against Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is in third with 1 point. And then Eswatini is at the bottom of the table without a point and a negative goal difference of -2. The other group consists of Zambia, Botswana, Comoros, and Malawi. The best two teams from each of the groups qualifies for the semi-finals. We wish our young boys all the best.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
Let's give you a local sports news roundup, starting with golf, where Zimbabwe's representatives at the Joburg Open had good opening rounds after they managed under par scores. Ben Follett-Smith and Scott Vincent are the only local professionals in the European Tour sanctioned tournament. Vincent, who teed off at midday yesterday, managed a 2 under par 70 to sit tied on position 32 going into today's second round. The European Tour card holder had 3 birdies and a single bogey in his 18 holes. Follett-Smith did one better with a score of 5 under 65. In cricket news, former Zimbabwe captain Elton Chigumbura will double up playing and coaching roles in the upcoming 2020-2021 domestic cricket season. The all-rounder was named one of the assistant coaches at Eagles in the technical appointments made by Zimbabwe Cricket at their last board meeting. Chigumbura, who is now in the twilight of his career, announced his retirement from international cricket during the recent tour of Pakistan. We wrap it up with tennis news, where TZ, that's Tennis Zimbabwe, are confident local junior players will take advantage of the upcoming International Tennis Federation, ITF, 18 and under events set for Bulawayo and Harare between this month and next month. The National Association have been pushing to at least have some competitions before the end of the year. Their efforts have yielded positive results after they got clearance from the Sports and Recreation Commission to host the international tournaments. TZ had been given the green light by the ITF to host 3 18 and under tournaments, but they were waiting for the approval from the Sports Commission.
Hi, this is Mike Madura, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
Don't forget to keep your tweets coming through at ZiFM Sport, or also in our individual capacities. Let's talk sport. Any questions that you might have coming out of the world of sport, local and international, would only be too willing to discuss. Now, let's give you some rugby news of an international nature. Hosts and defending champions New Zealand have been drawn with fierce rivals Australia in Pool A at next year's Women's Rugby World Cup. Audience members gasped when the Tasman neighbours were placed in the same pool at a draw ceremony in Auckland that was done earlier today, attended by New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. The draw in full Pool A, New Zealand, Australia, Wales, and the group will be completed by a final qualification tournament winner. Pool B sees Canada grouped together with USA. The European qualifier will complete that group, and they'll also be joined by a qualifier from Asia. And then Group C itself is a heavyweight group as well. It's got England, France, South Africa, and Fiji. Now let's get the thoughts of New Zealand captain Eloise Blackwell following the draw.
Yeah, I'm unsure if we've, well, not in my time, I've never been in a pool with Australia, but every time we come up against each other, it's a massive battle, and no doubt next year is going to be nothing different.
How do you think England and France are feeling right about now, if we wanted to have a bit of a shout out to some of the rivals?
Yeah, it's interesting how the pools have come out. We've got an Australasian pool, a North American, and a Europe. So, yeah, all across all pools, there's some really quality teams, and there's going to be some tough games.
Z.
The women's game has been on the rise, Chris, and making major strides, and a World Cup tournament for people to look forward to. And the one thing that the draw has thrown up, which the tournament organizers will be happy about, are the derbies. There's one in Group C. England will take on France, and then, of course, the big one where New Zealand will take on Australia.
Definitely, and what that does is it ensures that there's a lot of action right from the start of the tournament, and that's what you want, especially with a women's rugby tournament, where normally it's not going to get the same kind of viewership as you would get with the men's. So in this scenario, I'm sure all of the broadcasters, all of the management teams are really looking forward to this, because what it does, like I said, is to present that action right from the beginning and to obviously have a smashing World Cup.
Barry, one of the reasons why the women's game or the Women's World Cup has been gaining so much traction over the last 10 or so years is the fact that the games are usually open and exciting.
Absolutely. They are less physical. What you get is that there's less, if I can call it this, and I'm going to use the term very loosely, less negative rugby, where you rely on your physicality at the breakdown. You rely on your ability to execute at a restart from restart positions. So you get a big, open, expansive game that relies on the player's skill set and game strategy. So I think for the purist, this is certainly a very big attraction, and those that love to watch open running rugby, this will be a fantastic, mouth-watering affair.
Does it explain for you, Barry, New Zealand's dominance in this tournament? Because you're talking about open, expansive running rugby where your skill set come to the fore. Does it explain the fact that New Zealand are the defending champions and they've won it, I think, 6 times?
Yes, it absolutely does. And you look at the rugby pathway, both for men and women in New Zealand. It's a national sport. It's what they do. So consequently, their skill set. Okay, let's start with the talent. Their talent level is going to be higher, and then you look at their development structures that actually then improve and give them the skill set that they require at the top international level. Obviously, New Zealand is going to be the better, and as a result of the style of rugby that's played in the women's game, New Zealand is far and away the best when executing when it comes to the skill level.
Well, the tournament will be played from September 18 to October 16 in Auckland and Whangarei. If New Zealand remains free of COVID-19, matches will be played in full stadiums, and so we keep our fingers crossed for that. Now, we've talked up the Silver Ferns, as they are called, as the tournament favourites, but the world number 1 team is England, and if they have anything to do with it, they'll be looking to win the tournament outright and go one step further than they did in the last tournament. Let's hear from England players Amber Reid and Sarah Bairn, who shared their thoughts on the draw.
Yeah, there's some pretty tasty matchups across all the groups. Obviously, France are a team that we've gone toe-to-toe with quite a lot over the last few years. So, yeah, that'll be a tough match for both teams. And obviously, South Africa and Fiji are going to bring something new and exciting that we haven't really experienced before. So, yeah, really nice mix in our group.
We just take every game as it comes. I think it would be complacent to go into any tournament thinking that you have momentum behind you. You've just got to play what's on the pitch, and we're so lucky that we had the depth and we've been able to rotate our squad, and the girls put in a great performance last week, which for us is just amazing that we have such a big squad and so many girls that can manage to go out and perform on that pitch.
Chris, we've been waxing lyrical about New Zealand, but England must not be overlooked. They are the number 1 ranked side in the women's game at the moment.
England are no mugs. They moved to number 1 in the world rankings after that 33-10 win over France, which is earlier this month. They've extended their unbeaten run to 9 games. So England is definitely a strong team and a strong contender. They were runners-up in the last World Cup tournament. And I think just taking a look at that, this is a team that can obviously go up against a team like New Zealand, and in order to do so, they have to be incredibly strong.
Chris, you talked about that 9-game run, the 9-match winning run that they are on, but the last team that they lost to was New Zealand. Do they have to get over a psychological impediment, as it were? Because the last World Cup final, they lost to New Zealand. The last game which they lost was to New Zealand. So they'll have to overcome that psychological thing. Impediment.
Yeah, they definitely do. It presents a bit of a hoodoo, and I think it also presents a bit of a mental block, as it were, because of the fact that New Zealand are known for their rugby. They're known, even on the women's side, whether it's 7s, whether it's 15s, they're known to be an incredibly strong side. So I think that mental hoodoo is something that they have to get over. But I think in terms of going into this tournament preparations, I think that's something they're definitely going to be working on in order to present that kind of surprise and possibly get that win against New Zealand.
Oh, it's certainly a tournament that we're going to be looking forward to, and I'm sure nearer the time we'll give you an even more comprehensive build-up to the Women's Rugby World Cup in New Zealand. Well, there's a bit of rugby for you to look forward to this weekend. The Nations Cup in Europe will see England taking on Ireland. That's a good one. That game will be played at Twickenham, and then Wales will play Georgia at the Millennium Stadium. Tri-Nations Rugby sees Argentina taking on Australia. Argentina wanting to show the world that their victory over the All Blacks was not a fluke. Australia wanting to bounce back in the tournament. Super Rugby unlocked in South Africa. The Bulls looking really good and dominant will play versus the Pumas, and the Cheetahs take on the Griquas.
Hi, I'm JC Krill, Springbok and Blue Bulls backline player. You are listening to ZiFM Sports.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in London, where Rafael Nadal overcame defending champion Stefanos Tsitsipas to join Dominic Thiem in the semi-finals of the ATP finals and keep alive his hopes of winning the season-ending tournament for the first time. Nadal ended Tsitsipas' hopes of retaining his title with a 6-4, 4-6, 6-2 victory to reach the final four of the tournament for the first time since 2015. In news from Dubai, the ICC has announced that teams will be ranked based on the percentage of points earned from completed matches to determine the finalists of the inaugural World Test Championship next year. ICC Chief Executive Manu Soni said ranking teams based on points earned from completed matches reflected their performance and doesn't disadvantage teams that have been unable to complete all of their matches through no fault of their own. And we'll touch down in California, where Golden State Warriors star guard Klay Thompson has a torn right Achilles and will miss the 2020-2021 season. And this will be the second consecutive lost season for Thompson, who tore his left anterior cruciate ligament in the NBA Finals against the Toronto Raptors in June 2019 and has not played since. The Warriors confirmed the reports on Wednesday night that Thompson suffered a leg injury in a workout in Southern California, but have not provided any details since.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Back heels Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudence. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
Our dive into the beautiful game starts in England, where old rivals Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola renew hostilities when Tottenham Hotspur welcome Manchester City to North London tomorrow night. For the first time since January 2017, Spurs go into a showdown with Man City sitting above their opponents in the table, and victory would lift them to the very top until at least Sunday night. Ahead of the match, Aymeric Laporte believes that Manchester City will go on to win more trophies after their unique manager Pep Guardiola committed his future to the club.
We are all happy because he's a great manager. He have achieved many things here and a little time, so happy to stay with him 2 more years, and hopefully I can be here to work with him and concede more or achieve more trophies with him. We didn't know exactly when he could finish, but yeah, we were expecting what he will do, but now we know it and we are happy with that.
2020 has served up some surprises, and one of the surprises that it served up, Alois, is the fact that Spurs is on top of Manchester City when this fixture comes round, and then also Manchester City has had almost a stuttering start to their league campaign.
Yeah, surprisingly, when we were putting our top 4 predictions, I don't think anybody was very confident to actually include Tottenham Hotspur in that top 4 list. But here we are, Jose Mourinho actually showing that he is actually a very shrewd tactician. They're doing well. You know, when you look at the way they are playing, they're actually scoring goals. You know, a lot of people have always said that Jose Mourinho plays defensive football. But when you look at Tottenham Hotspur, he has got guys that are actually scoring goals. Eric Kane is scoring, Son is scoring. They've actually made a very good partnership pairing, and they're doing well. And at the same time, everybody gave Manchester City as one of the title favourites together with Liverpool, obviously. But like you say, that they've had a stuttering start, but they are a quality side. Everybody knows that once they hit top gear, they can play. On their day, they can beat anybody. So this is quite interesting, quite an interesting fixture, and we are looking forward to it. As neutral fans, we are just going there to just enjoy the game, but it's going to be one hell of a blockbuster match because Tottenham Hotspur are playing well. They are playing a team that is actually expected to win the league, and they are very good at their best.
Now, City travel to North London, Chris, with good vibes around the club because, of course, Pep Guardiola has committed the next 2 years at least to Manchester City, and no doubt that was met with a huge sigh of relief by the players and everyone around Manchester City. Now, to sort of put icing on the cake, a victory would be phenomenal away from home at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
A victory would be phenomenal. I think it would be a nice icing on the cake. There was a lot of talk, I think, towards the end of last season and beginning of this season as well. Is Pep going to stay? And if Pep has recommitted, I think it also kind of emboldens the players themselves and gives them a little bit more to play for, especially in a match like this against a Tottenham side that's not necessarily stuttering. This team is playing well. And if City are able to get a win over this Tottenham side, I think it bodes well for them coming off of the international break.
Now, Mike, two of the things that we've been talking about around Manchester City are with reference to the defense. That's almost been solved with the coming in of Ruben Dias, who has hit the ground running at the Sky Blues. And then, of course, the striking department, where they haven't been scoring nearly enough goals, or at least at the rate at which they normally do. And they'll be buoyed by the probable return of Sergio Aguero.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. If he's available for selection, I think he just gives the team a bit of a lift. Gabriel Jesus himself as well, he's shown that he's quite capable of scoring. We saw that wonderful take and finish versus Liverpool, which earned them a point versus the champions. And so he's also another one that they can look to. But the problem with Gabriel Jesus, in terms of in the physical stakes, is a bit lightweight. He also doesn't have the same range of movement and the guile that Sergio Aguero has got. Aguero has been with this team for a long time, Barry, 10 years, nearly 10 years now with Manchester City. He knows this team. The team's attack has been built around him. And so that is where the problem is, because Man City, I think in their last few games, I think you have to go back to their sort of like their 5-2 thumping at the hands of Leicester. When they last scored 2 goals, they've been sort of like dealing with just the solitary goal in matches. And so that is a challenge for Pep Guardiola in this game. How is he able to get more than 1 goal on the board? The thing that will also encourage him is that Tottenham Hotspur, classically, and even this season, are a team that give you opportunities. They give you a chance. You are able to score against them. So with Laporte and Ruben Dias playing as well as they have over the last couple of weeks, or should I say over the last month, since they formed a partnership, he will be quietly confident that if the likes of Sterling can find their shooting boots, Kevin De Bruyne as well can come to the party, Gabriel Jesus is able to deliver, or Aguero is available for selection, he might get the goals that could win him the game.
Yeah, and those goals will need to come from those attacking players, Alois, that Mike points out. The sad thing is, of course, that this international break has claimed Raheem Sterling because he suffered that calf injury when he was on England duty. So it's a bit of a...
But he's got a good replacement. If he opts to go with Phil Foden as well, who's shown tremendous form for England, scored a brace in midweek, he's a player that I believe should be starting more often, because I thought Foden, for me, was a ready-made, tailor-made replacement for David Silva. I just think he needs to stick with him, and the young man will deliver.
Yeah, give him a run of games and he definitely will deliver. Alois, goals win matches, and if you score the goals, you're likely to be there or thereabouts in the final shake-up in the league table. If you look at the goals return, as Mike pointed out there, Tottenham Hotspur is actually scoring more of the goals than Manchester City. So how does this one play out? Does Jose Mourinho come out and try and be tight and stoic at the back? Or does he come out and play like he's been playing with Kane in that 10 role and Son and Kane playing interchangeably, trying to get that breakthrough?
I'm not sure what kind of game plan he has got, but if he does that system of sitting back and waiting to hit them on the counter, I don't think it really works with Man City, because Man City, they are masters of maintaining possession. You don't want Man City to keep the ball. You need to play. You see, whenever Liverpool plays against Man City, have you seen how they do it? They press up top. They have got high press and they want to grab the ball straight from the defenders of Man City. That's how how should you play Man City against them? Because if you let them knock the ball around and say, I'll let them play in their half and they come to us, they will definitely come. And they're actually very good at playing penetrative passes as well in your half. So it's very difficult, and when you get it, they press you in that half as well. So I don't think that is going to work for them. They just need to take the game to Manchester City and just harass them and play. That way they can create a lot of chances. When they play so much in the Manchester City's box, they have chances. They've got players that can score goals. Harry Kane and Song, they don't miss a lot of chances.
I like the points brought by Alois Barry about watching Liverpool go about their business versus City. What they did was that they starved off access to Kevin De Bruyne. And just the one time that actually KDB went loose is the one time that he was able to feed Gabriel Jesus for the equalizer. But if you notice that they came back with the resolve in the second half, made sure that they cut off all the avenues of supply for KDB. KDB was constantly trying to switch positions just to get to the ball. Every time he found the access denied. And so that's the way to play Man City. Don't give them the opportunity to get the ball to KDB, and don't allow them to transition easily into your defensive half.
So there'll be a big job for the likes of Momo Sissoko and, of course, Tongi Dombele in that midfield of Tottenham Hotspur. That is, of course, if Jose Mourinho picks them and they actually start. Let's get some predictions from you guys. Chris, you go first.
This is a little bit of a tricky one, but Manchester City has been shaky for me, so this is going to come to a draw for me. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. Mikey?
2-0 Manchester City.
2-0 to Manchester City. My God. Draw a blank against Manchester City will Tottenham Hotspur, according to my daughter. All right, Bunjira, tell us.
I'm looking at this one as a high-scoring match. I'm giving this one to Man City 3-2. Final 5 minutes, they've scored a winner.
3-2. Mourinho doesn't give us many of those open games. Open a church, Mike Madura says to you, Alois. All right, the rest of your weekend Premier League fixtures look like this. Newcastle United versus Chelsea. Aston Villa will entertain Brighton. It's Tottenham Hotspur taking on Manchester City tomorrow evening. Manchester United will take on West Bromwich Albion at the Theatre of Dreams. Fulham will take on Everton at Craven Cottage, while Sheffield United takes on West Ham United. Leeds United will take on Arsenal in a potentially tasty affair, that one as well. Bielsa versus Arteta. And then Liverpool will take on Leicester City. It is absolutely a super Sunday. And the Liverpool side that'll be without Mohamed Salah for the visit of Leicester City to Anfield after the Egypt star tested positive for COVID-19 while on international duty. He returned yet another positive test, I think it was yesterday, and so he's got a few more days in quarantine before he can travel back to England. Guys, fantasy football.
No, Barry, Wafunga some African. The Egyptian FA chartered a medically equipped private jet to fly Mohamed Salah and Mohamed El Neni back to England. So they are back in England.
It's a different world. It is a different world, guys.
It's a different world. Yeah.
So let me stay with you, Michael, since you're the man on the inn. Without Salah, with Kane and Son taking on Manchester City, who do fantasy managers pick for captain this weekend?
I am going with Calvert-Lewin versus Fulham. I think there are opportunities there for goals. He should be able. James Rodriguez is back. Richarlison is back. So that attacking trident that they had formed at Everton that saw them get off to a really good start at the start of the season is back together. So I fancy there'll be more chances for Calvert-Lewin, and Fulham is a side that's been shipping in goals. So I fancy Calvert-Lewin as skipper.
I think that's a good choice. Alois, the reason why you gave us a 3-2 scoreline, I've realized now, is because you want your captain, Harry Kane, to score 2 goals, don't you?
Yeah, he is going to be on that score sheet. He's going to score the 2 goals for Tottenham Hotspur. Unfortunately, on the losing side, but he's still my captain. 2 goals as captain, I'm still good. He's still good enough.
Fantasy managers, there you have it. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is a good choice. You pick him, and you might just get the points that you require. I haven't had a good time of my fantasy, so I'm not going to comment at all.
The league that makes football oh so beautiful, where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day, where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
Your weekend action in Spain, Osasuna versus Huesca. Elche will travel to Levante. Real Madrid, the champions, they are away to Villarreal. The Yellow Submarine. Sevilla will entertain Celta Vigo. Eibar versus Getafe. Real Sociedad is at Cadiz. Granada versus Real Valladolid. Alaves entertain Valencia, but the pick of the fixtures is the big one. At the Wanda Metropolitano, it's Atletico Madrid, Los Rojiblancos taking on the Blaugrana Barcelona. Big game, this one, Chris, and you've got to say that the spice that we were expecting with Luis Suarez now playing for Atletico Madrid has been taken out of the pot, but it should still be a good game.
Yeah, it was going to be a little bit more saucy if Luis Suarez was going to be in this particular match, but he's not. I think that brought a really interesting underlying current to it. But even if he's not, I think this Atletico Madrid side has had such a great start to the season. And coming up against a Barcelona side who have been not necessarily as convincing as you'd usually have them be at the beginning of this season, it's still going to be a tasty encounter.
Alois, it's a 4-game winning streak for Atletico Madrid. They're looking really good in La Liga, up against, like Chris said, a Barcelona side that's had a very unsure start. Atletico Madrid classically don't do well versus Barcelona in the league. So this is a wonderful opportunity for them to get all 3 points versus Barca.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting encounter. Like you said, that this is the chance for Atletico Madrid to actually hit one better than Barcelona, because they haven't had a good start. At the same time, Atletico Madrid had a very good start. But when you look at it, the Suarez factor, I still think that is gonna be happening on the field, because he might not be playing, but probably his spirit is gonna be there, because they talk about it at training, and probably you will go into the changing room, you tell the guys, or you can phone the guys, you will tell the guys, you know what, I want you to do this for me. That that spirit of playing for Suarez, because I believe that he has brought a lot of excitement to Atletico Madrid, and actually the sense of believing that they can actually win La Liga this season. I can actually feel it filtering into the Atletico Madrid changing room. And playing against Barcelona, this is a team that they need to beat if they want to win the championship. They need to beat Real Madrid. They need to beat Barcelona if they are anticipating winning the La Liga. So this game, for me, I think is the one that they need.
Now, if I have to be asked for 5 of Diego Simeone's biggest critics the world over, Barry Menandi would be one of them. And so Barry, and your biggest criticism of Diego Simeone has been his approach in the big games, where it's been about stifling the opposition. It's been negative football, as you would like to call it. And yet he does have some really good choice pieces who are attacking minded, players like Koke, Saul Niguez, players like that, Joao Felix. Those guys can actually play some really good, entertaining football. But in the big games, he opts for a slightly negative approach. Now, before the international break, I think Atletico Madrid 4-0 victors. Barcelona 5-2 victors. Is there anything in that that might suggest that perhaps Atletico Madrid might go for an open, expansive approach versus Barcelona, or you think that Diego Simeone, the old instincts, will kick in?
Yeah, normal settings are always, look, you revert to normal settings, especially when you have Barcelona in front of you. Because here's the deal. I think that with the start that Atletico Madrid has had, Diego Simeone playing the tournament, playing the competition, he's going to think to himself, a draw is not a bad result. So yes, we're at home, but what we're going to do is we're going to keep it tight and make sure that they can't score. We definitely can possibly get something going forward because we've got the quality to do that, and we know that these guys are shaky, but let's not give them anything. I think those instincts are going to kick in. And the sad thing is that you look at Koke in that Spain international midfield that destroyed and dismantled Germany, and how good he looked. And then you look at him when Diego Simeone asks him to mark more than he plays, you can see that Koke is a class operator, and we know that of him. That's why I criticize Diego Simeone. I'm praying that we see an open, expansive game, but I doubt that we will.
I doubt that we will, but it is certainly the biggest game of the weekend in Spain. It's Atletico Madrid taking on Barcelona.
Let's wrap up Europe with news out of Italy and Germany. Your weekend Serie A fixtures: Crotone versus Lazio, Spezia takes on Atalanta, Juventus versus Cagliari, Fiorentina versus Benevento, Inter Milan versus Torino, Roma will be up against Parma, Napoli will be facing AC Milan and could do so without 4 starters this weekend as Gennaro Gattuso faces his former side. Some of those players, Stefano Pioli and Giacomo Morelli. Alois, on a normal day, you take a look at this match and it would have been pretty even if you take a look at their standings. Milan sitting at the top of Serie A with 17 points. But in the scenario, some players are missing and it's going to be a bit of a headache.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a headache for Rio, Chris, because under normal circumstances, if all the teams are at full strength, we would be talking about a blockbuster match. But unfortunately, we've got a lot of players that are missing in the fixture. We don't know which teams are going to come onto the pitch on the day, and we just have to watch and see. But all the same, these are top teams. These are top teams with quality players, quality replacement. So we are looking forward to a competitive match still.
The rest of your Serie A fixtures this weekend: Sampdoria versus Bologna, Hellas Verona versus Sassuolo, and Udinese versus Genoa. Heading into the Bundesliga now, that absolutely crazy 6-0 drubbing, Germany beaten by Spain, Mike. Certain players, especially your Bayern Munich players who are used to winning, are going to want to come into this game week and obviously manage to get a win off of those matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a humiliating performance for Germany, and the likes of Manuel Neuer involved in that game. The first time I think he's shipped in 6 goals. He's not used to losing, and therefore he would have felt the scrutiny, the pressure that comes with defeat over the last few days. He'll be only too happy to be pulling on the Bayern Munich jumper, where it should be normal service resumed for him in terms of just getting back into a winning team and on a winning side. So I think he'll be happy to get away from the national team scene back to the comforts of Bayern Munich.
Back to the comforts of Bayern Munich, and they start off with a match against Werder Bremen. The rest of your Bundesliga fixtures: Freiburg versus Mainz, Cologne will be taking on Union Berlin, Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Augsburg, Arminia Bielefeld versus Bayer Leverkusen, Schalke 04 will be taking on Wolfsburg, Hoffenheim versus Stuttgart, Eintracht Frankfurt versus RB Leipzig, and Hertha Berlin versus Borussia Dortmund. Quick peek into League One to finish off your European wrap. Monaco will be up against PSG, Reims versus Nimes, and Angers versus Lyon.
We're out of time on the show, but a quick look into Muzansi is in order. The DStv Premiership returns after this international break, and Golden Arrows will host Kaiser Chiefs. Kaiser Chiefs sorely in need of a win. Black Leopards versus Maritzburg United. Stellenbosch will take on Chippa United. Orlando Pirates entertain Supersport United, probably in the pick of the games on Saturday. And then the Battle of the New Boys, Sea Swallows entertain TS Galaxy. On Sunday, it's Mamelodi Sundowns taking on Amazulu, Chakuma Madzivandila taking on Baroka, while Cape Town City will take on Bloemfontein Celtic. That's your weekend. We've lined it up for you. Hopefully, it delivers in the way that you want it to. If it doesn't, we'll be here on Monday at 6:05 to hopefully make it a little better or rub salt into your gaping wounds. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.